All right. Well, you're also keen. The most underrated films you think are most underrated, or your most favorite underrated films? James Robbins flying out the traps. Off you go.
All right, so before I go and say what mine is, and I'm trying to remember what the bloody hell what my one is now. Yeah, I've got it.
He was so
I've got it.
confident.
So overrated, you've forgotten it.
I was just gonna say how I did it. So, because I was like, how the hell do I figure out what the hell is my most underrated film? Anyway, so what I did was I went onto my IMDb and onto ones I'd given ratings for, and I looked at those where my rating is like significantly different to what the IMDb rating of it is, and I had a look at those, and I picked out the one which was the most different in between what I think it is and what it actually been rated. Anyway, for me, my most underrated film, as a result of looking at it through that method, was Kingdom of Heaven, which we've already mentioned on the
numerous times.
Today for Valhalla Rising. So,
what was that on IMDb?
It's like a 7.2 or something, I think.
Yeah, so it's good but underrated. You're saying in that way. It's that kind of underrated.
It's good, but
that's why I explained the way in which I did it, because it may not be how everyone else has done it at all. But I just tried to. I was like, I need to bring some degree of kind of consistency into the way I'm looking at this. And so for me, yeah, I bloody love that film. Like, for me, I gave it a 9. I'd fully stick by that because I absolutely loved it, especially the director's cut. I think that's
the only way to watch the film. Sorry.
Incredible. And it's rated down in like I think it's low 7s or something like that.
Yeah, that's criminal.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic. I honestly, I really, really, really love that film. I think it's beautifully shot. I think there's some great dialogue. I think some. I think it's probably Orlando Bloom's for me is his best performance in the film for me. I do. I think it is. So yeah, that's my most underrated. And I'm glad to hear that everyone else is quite impassioned by that as well and agreeing with me and being like, yeah, this is a good film. It's a good film. So yeah, no, that's my choice.
Fair enough. Jem, what's your choice?
Again, I went a similar way. I thought that the best way of doing it would be to compare how well it did, like critically and with IMDb, compared to how much I like it. And one that I think always flies under the radar, is just never talked about or mentioned with some of the really good films, is Master and Commander: Far Side of the World. Russell Crowe, 2003. Yeah. So I mean, it's this huge, epic period drama that did. I mean, it did well in the box office. It didn't do like stunningly well, but I think the biggest problem was that it got it got absolutely sniped at the Academy Awards because of Return of the King in 2003. So it got nominated for something like 10 Oscars, but it only won. I think it won like 2 irrelevant ones.
It's like the worst year for it to be in there.
Because Return of the King just won everything.
Yeah.
And so I think it wasn't a failure by any means, but it just always seems to get overlooked, and it's just a film I really, really enjoy. I think the plot is fantastic. Like, it keeps you going through it all. And
what's it rated overall?
I like that film.
What's
its rating? Sorry, what is its rating on IMDb?
It's
0.4.
7.4. So I mean, it's a pretty good rating for IMDb. Like, presumably the critics gave it good reviews, right? It got nominated for Oscars, so surely the critics must have given it 4s
It got
and
nominated,
5s.
Jim, you're right, 10 Oscars, and it only won 2, and it was best cinematography and best sound editing.
Does that make it underrated?
That's irrelevant. That's some.
No, it lost in all other categories to Lord of the Rings.
Does that make it irrelevant though? Does that make it underrated?
I think it's often overlooked.
Do you think it's overlooked or underrated?
That's the thing. So I'm not sure I would actually give it that much higher than a 7 point, maybe like a 7.8, something like that.
7.8 is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'd give it much higher than that. So for me, it's not massively underrated.
I'd probably give it more like an 8.5. Like, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, it is overlooked. That film is overlooked. It doesn't really come up in conversation very often.
Yeah, true.
Fair enough. Right,
Yep.
Master and Commander. There you go. Tom.
Well, I've actually just googled the IMDb of mine, which actually shoots down my argument a little bit because
We just
I
don't mention that.
Because yeah.
That all the same method.
IMDb knows fuck all. Well, you might disagree. So it's highly rated, this film, which is the problem. But I still think it's underrated in my head because I'm like, I love any kind of film where it is a potential outcome for Earth, and you're watching it and you're like, oh my god, it's semi-feasible. This one's a bit far-fetched, having said that. But Children of Men, I just think is a solid point eight.
Yeah,
Is
great
it,
film.
what is it on IMDb? It's got to be fucking sky high. It's amazing.
Yeah, no,
Children
no,
of
but,
Men's very well.
but when people talk about top fives, it's never lingering in top fives, and like even it doesn't. I don't think it gets raved about enough. Maybe because like I guess Clive Owen isn't like the box office star like that you could have as the main character, as the main actor. But yeah, it's actually got 7.9 score, which kind of I thought it was a little bit lower than that. But I'd have it like high eights. I think that's a great film, and doesn't get talked about enough.
Great there.
Yeah, I think it's a great film. I agree.
Yeah.
Better,
Also very-
I'd rate it higher. I'd rate it higher than that.
Yeah, I would too. I would too.
It's
It's
really
a-
underrated, and it's not underrated.
honestly, no spoilers. But honestly,
Yeah.
when she reveals, I have been more shocked watching the film. But seriously, even then, I was like, did not see it coming from a mile off. I was like, what? A whole new dimension to this film opens up. That like it's just it's unbelievable.
The tracking shots in that film are mad. When Julianne Moore just that bit is so sick. It's so
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would we all give it? What would we all give it out of interest?
8.5, something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
reckon 8.5.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that film.
Maybe 8.4, 8.5, probably something like that.
Yeah,
8.3, 8.4, 7.7, 7.3.
bit high for me.
Yeah.
But I'll give Master and Commander. I think it's an easy 8. I agree with you. I think that's my favourite shout so far. I haven't obviously.
Everybody's chosen such like manly epics, like everybody across the board. Have you noticed that?
The trouble is, there's so many in that genre that like they often do get forgotten.
Children
Yeah.
of Men,
Like stuff like Master and Commander.
Yeah.
Even look at Russell Crowe's filmography, just because he was churning out absolute bangers at that point. Like, wasn't that straight after it went Gladiator 2000, Beautiful Mind 2002, and then Master and Commander was like 04 or something.
Yeah.
Like home runs at every
Beautiful
film.
Mind, then Gladiator, yeah. I
A
think.
couple of
Was it?
epics in there. Yeah.
James, what's mine? You know what mine is.
Mask of Zorro.
Yeah, every day.
Oh, great film.
Well, Antonio Banderas.
Such a good film.
It's like my childhood favourite film. Like, it's just nostalgia hit every single time I watch it, and I just think it's epic. The score, the acting, the fucking direction. It's a straight 9 for me. Probably is maybe even a 9.1, something around there.
Oh,
And
it
gets
is
a
underrated.
It gets a 6.7 on
Yeah.
IMDb.
I think I'm gonna need a refresh from when I watched it when I was like 9 or something.
It's
Whenever I last
such
watched
a
it.
good
Mate,
film.
the cast is great in it as well. The cast is really good, isn't it?
Love it just as much
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
I'm not sure here.
Banderas and who's the it's Hannibal Lecter. I can't remember
Anthony
the actor.
Hopkins,
Oh, Hopkins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony
Yeah.
Hopkins, Catherine
Catherine
Zeta-Jones.
Zeta-Jones.
Catherine Zeta-Jones, yeah.
They're
It's
in it.
iconic. It's actually the definition of an iconic film. It's so iconic.
Even the
Yeah.
final scenes when they're in like the sand mine and they're having that fight on top. That
The
is so.
sunlight going along this sword and that kind of thing. That is
And that was real. That was actually
It's
real.
so mad.
They did that by accident on one of the takes. They weren't even intending to have that glint strike across the sword, and it's like the most iconic thing I've ever seen.
Really, that's cool.
You got films of like epic moments of epic proportions, which have boosted them up in your own ladder. Do you reckon? They've all got these moments. They've all got these moments on like epic proportions. Like every film you've mentioned has got one of those sort of amazing moments in it, but clearly it's not enough to make it climb up to that the level that you think it is. All of you.
I think part of it is mass appeal. Like enough people have to think it's incredible to get this like critical mass of people talking about it, and then it's just immediately like made immortal, like something like Gladiator. Just enough people know that it's an incredible film that people will continue to watch it forever and comment as an amazing film.
Yeah, but the critics actually don't rate that film all that highly. If you look at some of the critical reviews on IMDb, they're actually pretty. They look at it as a pretty standard, like, you know, pop pleasing kind of epic. But they don't really think there's much meat to it. It seems anyway. And yet the user reviews are like complete reverse.
I would immediately disregard any opinion they have.
Guy, go with yours, mate.
So mine aren't on the same levels as yours at all. So I've got two, but they're two different reasons. So one of them is the one that I think is most underrated, and then another one is that my favourite most underrated film. But it is shit, right? So, but it's underrated. So the one I've mentioned it loads of times before as well, Stranger Than Fiction. I think it's criminally underrated for what it is. The cast that it's got is amazing. I think it's Will Ferrell's best film, like full stop. I know we mentioned him a couple of weeks ago in the comedy section, but this is a straight up serious film. It's none of you have still watched it, have you? And it's honestly it's so much more complex than I think it originally gives off. And it's got Dustin Hoffman, Emma Thompson, and Will Ferrell, and it delves so deep into. There's a lot of psychology in the film. It's really hard to talk about it when no one else has seen it. But
that being your pick has literally boosted it right up my watch list.
Yeah, so. I think it's got like a 7.2, I think, on IMDb, and it got sort of 3s and 4s. But I personally think it's so much more than that. But that's just a personal opinion. But that's I'd say it's very, very underrated, and it keeps appearing every so often.
Next time you're away for a week, we'll do a round table of that.
Yeah, smash it down. And then my other one, which it'd be interesting if anyone else has got any ones that they're not the great films, but they are underrated films. Is I really like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. As an underrated film. People hate it, but I love it. I think it's so good, and it almost takes on the style of the Valhalla Rising. That actually is very similar in that way, but it does it better, I think, in that way. And I actually, I think every time I hear that people don't like it, I like it more, just purely because it isn't amazing, but I do think it's underrated for what it is.
Underrated, I feel.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
Can we do a guilty pleasure week?
We should do a guilty pleasure one. That would actually be jokes.
Yeah. James will be Phantom Menace.
The Love Actuallys and the...
James will be Phantom Menace again.
They're not guilty. Love Actually is just a great film. Anything with Hugh Grant in it is good in my book.
What do you guys think about the old Lara Croft films?
I don't. That was going to be my pick for guilty pleasure week. So you've just done my done.
I was going to say I absolutely love those films.
So go through them again. So we've got Stranger Than Fiction, Zorro, Master and Commander. Tom, yours was Children of Men, and James, yours was
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh yeah. When do you think was the best era for film? Because I think the sweet spot is like 95 to like 2010, just before CGI became widely available and overused. But like was good enough. That period was good enough where they needed it. It was great.
I don't think it's CGI.
You're just opening up a whole.
Yeah, that's a whole new argument. That is.
Well, so that's a 15-year window.
That's a loaded question. That's a loaded question.
Yeah, that's a whole new. That's another debate for another day.